Good evening, everyone. You've all entered on mute, so if you're trying to shout, then please and you want to say anything now, please unmute yourself before you do. But otherwise, if you keep yourself on mute for the time being, because we're going to start with a bit of a presentation anyway, before we open the floor for further discussion.
Okay.
Great. So welcome to our first public Zoom meeting. I say first because it's the first time we're using this technology, so please do bear with us if it is a bit less than smooth. And the purpose of tonight's public meeting is really to introduce the Medway Green Party and the Hoo Peninsula campaign. And tonight we're going to give a very brief overview of the Green Party, the National Green Party, the Medway Green Party, who we are, what we do and what we're planning to do. And then we'll crack on with the more detailed presentation about the proposed developments on the Hoo Peninsula and why we object, what our response is and how you can get involved. We will then open the floor for further discussions and questions. But I would say if there's anything at any time, I will be in the background, so feel free to type things in chat if you have any questions or any issues with hearing or any of the sort of the technology side of things. And then we'll just sort of promote to you sort of, again, a little bit more information about how you can get involved and some future meetings that we have. We will be recording this meeting and hope to put it on our website. And during the presentations, as I've already said, if you can just keep your microphone muted, that would be great. And I think I had one more thing to say about that. Oh yes, if the little pictures, sometimes they might cover the screen. So if just in case you don't know, you can actually click on them and sort of move them around the screen, drag them away if it's obscuring your view at all. So I hope that's okay, and I hope you enjoy tonight's presentation. And I'm now going to hand you over to David, who's one of our core members, to talk about the National Party.
Good evening, everyone. As Kat said, and as you can see from the slide on our screen, the Green Party has 10 core pillars and values which it stands by. Most of those are pretty self-explanatory, but I'd like to highlight a few things which I think make the Green Party unique and what makes it really brilliant. Unlike other parties, which although they're good in their own way, most of them don't tend to take the long view, and most of them do have a ideology which sometimes trumps everything else, which the Green Party does not do. For example, point 1, the Green Party is a party of environmental and social justice. We don't want to see an improved environment if that is at the cost of people losing livelihoods, losing money, and ending up in poverty. Yes, there will have to be changes, but that's not what we want to see. We do not want to see a ruined environment if that means people are making money and doing better. But we don't want to see a wonderful environment if that means people lose their livelihoods. In the 1980s, Margaret Thatcher closed down most of the coal mines in the UK because they'd found a cheaper way of getting coal and energy. The Green Party and environmentalists would have applauded the fact that we weren't using coal. But as a consequence of her actions, people who had built their livelihoods around the coal mining industry lost everything. Their communities were destroyed, and they fought tooth and nail to stop that happening. We do not want to see no flights if that means the air industry and people in that industry lose all of their money and they lose all of their jobs. Business associates, chief executives, well, maybe that's not so bad, but pilots, air hostesses, cabin crew, if they lose everything, not only will that be devastating for them, but they will fight tooth and nail to keep those jobs, even if that means polluting the environment, because they're losing things. We want to see a better environment and a better economy for everybody. So there have to be alternatives if we say we don't want air industry. Points 2 and 3, those are pretty self-explanatory too, but we also are serious about what we say. If you want to see environmental change, we have to accept there will be enormous changes in our lifestyle. You can't take a holiday by air as and when you want one. You can't buy a car that pollutes the environment, even if it's the one you like. You may have to buy more expensive rather than cheaper food if that food has been farmed efficiently and not in a way that ruins the environment. You may have to move to a different power source rather than using fossil fuel power. 5 and 6, those are 4, 5 and 6, those are pretty clear too. And as for 7 and 8, again, we want to see nations treated fairly and a healthy society which is based on the participation of everyone democratically. So that means essentially in Westminster, they can't tell someone in Scotland how to improve their environment if we never see them, never talk to them, but just hand down policies. Rather, the Green Party would like to hear from them, talk with them and work with them. You'll hear how that's done in Medway in a minute. The Green Party, in points 8 and 9, we believe in non-violence and fairness for everyone, but we also take the longer view. In society today, it's very often, how much money did you make? What's the business draft? What's the result? Is it going to benefit me now? If that person's not doing his job, oh, get rid of him, get rid of her, they're dead wood, and anyway, our business will make far more money if we go for the short term. We say, take the long view, or we can forget about a proper society. And lastly, we don't just believe in election campaigns, we believe in changes in lifestyle for everybody. For example, we cannot see all cars off the roads, but we can invest in electric vehicles to lessen the damage being done to the environment. You look at the statistics which are around now, it's easy to despair. It doesn't help that a very popular film recently, Planet of the Humans, essentially suggested electric cars are no good, solar power is no good, and people use that to say, I might as well use coal, drive a fossil fuel car and pee all over the environment because it's useless anyway. That is not true. We can make a difference. We can make changes in our lifestyle. We can see a change. We can now demand a global green recovery. As Caroline Lucas said yesterday in a discussion about cross-party politics and solutions that are across parties to ensure a better economy, we do not want to go back to the new norm, to the old normal, because the old normal was bloody awful for minorities and for many other people. This is your opportunity to find out about us and join us, and to hear about how the local Green Party and the Medway Green Party fits into this and how things go and what we're doing. I'm delighted to hand over to Sonia to tell us how the Medway Green Party is making an impact and what it actually is. Sonia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, David. Welcome and thank you for joining us and being interested in this important public Green Party political meeting. We are an active local party that wishes to gain a voice on Medway Council and influence its policies and that of other parties, and most importantly, work in collaboration and in partnership with them. We would like to give some information about our campaign up to 2023 and outline the progress made in relation to our achievements. We firmly believe in the Earth's life support system. Our philosophy has evolved over many decades. We consider that the current political system based on first past the post in the UK is fundamentally flawed, as it props up ailing right-wing administrations that marginalise the effects of pressing climate change issues as identified by the world's media. Our campaigning involves promoting proportional representation, as it is a fairer, more distributive and inclusive system of voting. Therefore, it significantly extends the vital voting voice of the people. Raising awareness of the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals ratified by all United Nations member states in 2015, it calls for action by all countries, whether rich or poor, to promote prosperity while protecting the environment. It is a vision to produce a world based on economic, social and environmental equity. We will challenge the local government to embed the Sustainable Development Goals at every level of decision making in its local plan to help protect our environment. We are objecting to the imposition of the 12,000 plus free market houses used to make the Hoo Peninsula into a so-called new settlement. Our letter campaign to the local authority challenging the building of 12,000 plus homes is gaining momentum. We object to all planning that fails to take the Sustainable Development Goals, including community partnership working, into account. We challenge the Council to set out its goals in relation to Sustainable Development Goals and monitor and report on their progress. We invite them to evidence that all development plans meet the needs of the planet. Our Green Local Plan will be detailed and objects to the local authorities' proposed 12,000 plus new houses on the peninsula. It will follow the essential guidelines set by the Sustainable Development Goals. It will be equitable. In the past 12 months, we have, in the 2019 local elections, stood 16 candidates and won 16.1% of the votes. Under proportional representation, this would have returned 2 local authority councillors. We returned our first parish councillor in High Housedoe. Woo, woo! And in the general election, we stood 3 candidates and beat the Liberals and UKIP parties. People are now listening to our message and adopting our policies. The general election result of December 2019, the National Green Party won 865,707 votes, which was 2.7% of votes cast, of which 3,445 Green votes came from Medway. This reflected 2.4% of the highest vote return in Medway. Using proportional representation without a qualifying level, this would have gained 17 MPs instead of the amazing one Caroline Lucas of Brighton Pavilion, who kept her seat. Thank you. Now over to tonight's core members. So we have Mary, who's our election agent and treasurer, with us here tonight. We have Marilyn, who's our coordinator and membership officer and our parish councillor. We have Kate, who's our coordinator and communications officer. We have Bernard, who's a core member, and we have myself, and I am the target to win officer, and we have Kat, who is a core member, and David, who is a core member. And now I'd like to pass you on to Kate and what we have been up to. Thank you.
Thanks, Sonia. Hi, everyone. Just a tiny correction before. It would have been nice if we had got 16.1% of the vote, but that was 6.1%. Just to clarify, that's okay. Optimistic as always. I would have said 26.1, so you never know. Yes, what have we been up to over the past 12 months? It's been extremely busy for us. Pandemic aside, we have worked with a variety of people, Stick-Free Medway, just a selection of images of some of the things we've been doing this year. We had Rupert Reed, who came to do a talk with us. He's a spokesperson for Extinction Rebellion. We've worked with the Save Our Orchard steering group and the Surrey Way and East Court Green protection groups. We were able to help stop the first part of the application from AC Gotham. And we've also got quite a few of our members now who are involved in the mutual aid road reps. So if we move on to the next part, it just gives you an idea. Yeah, so in July, we had the Pump Lane group that was formed. I helped form that and was on that throughout. In September, we had the global strikes we worked with the Medway Youth Climate Change Movement. In November, we hosted Rupert just before the elections, and then in December we were successful in standing 3 candidates, which was quite a financial feat for us at the time. We've also got a lot of our members who work across the whole of Medway in multiple community groups. There's some on the screen. So we have obviously towards plastic free Medway, Medway Youth Climate Change Movement, the Mutual Aid Road Reps Community Initiative, and then you've got the City of Culture Citizens Assembly, which was attended by Sonia, and I believe that's where we might have met David, if I might be mistaken there, I'm not sure. And we've also got the High Housetown Neighbourhood Plan that both Bernard and Marilyn have been dealing with, and we attend council meetings, we put questions into council meetings, and we want to work with the full society of Medway. So I'm just going to pass you over to Mary now, who will take you on our next little bit of a journey for the next 3 years. Thank you, everyone.
Right, good evening, everybody. And I would like to give you a little bit more detail regarding our plans for the next 3 years and what progress has been made already towards their achievement. Some points have been covered, but they bear repeating. The Green Party political programme includes the aim of bringing in proportional representation, which is a much fairer system of election and enables more minority parties to have a voice. We have started a letter writing campaign against inappropriate large-scale development on the Hoo Peninsula. This will be ongoing and other actions will follow. We have also made a detailed objection to the proposed local plan, which, as you have heard, includes 12,000 new houses on the peninsula, and we have started on formulating an alternative green local plan. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals are the world's best plan to build a better world for people and our planet by 2030. They were accepted by all United Nations member states in 2015, and they were all by countries to promote prosperity while protecting the environment. We're in communication with Medway Council Climate Change Committee regarding their reluctance to include us as working members in their meetings. And several members have already attended full council meetings and asked questions, and we intend to carry on with this. At the local elections in 2019, as Sonia has told you, we stood candidates in 14 wards out of 22. Currently, we have Marilyn as an elected member on High Housetown Parish Council. The next local elections are scheduled to be held in 2023, where we hope to field a candidate for every single ward. The next general election will probably be in 2024, and as you have heard, we have stood candidates in all 3 local constituencies for some years now, and also in the by-election in 2014, which was called when Mark Reckless resigned from the Conservative Party. Fundraising, as ever, is ongoing. Each time we stand a candidate in a parliamentary election, it costs us a £500 fee. And the publishing costs are in addition to this. Our wish to enlarge our membership really needs no explanation. We hope that this plan enables us to make a contribution towards making Medway a better place to live. I will now hand you over to Marilyn and Bernard for a role play to share and illustrate our many frustrations and difficulties with Medway Council. This is a pastiche of real conversations and interactions we have had. You couldn't make it up. Bernard is acting as the Medway Council Planning Officer, and Marilyn is an informed and concerned parish councillor. Now, in order to make this, the reception better on this, please would you now select speaker view, and then we can proceed. Thank you.
The new Medway Local Plan 2019 to 2037 sets out a vision for Medway by 2037 as a leading university waterfront city of 365,000 people, noted for its revitalized urban centres and its stunning natural and historic assets.
Sorry about that, Mr. Planning Officer. Can you explain to me where the extra 87,000 people where they're coming from, when natural growth, you will have seen from that previous graph, is close to zero in the area?
Well, the answer is really to ask Boris. The government has decided that Medway needs to build over 35,000 new homes in the next 17 years to accommodate the 87,000 extra people.
How can building more than 2,000 new homes each year be achievable when recent house building in Medway has been less than 500 new homes per year?
Well, the answer to that, Councillor, is to build on greenfield sites. It's quicker. More than 12,000 of these new homes will be built on the Hoo Peninsula. There is only one main road onto the peninsula, so the council has applied to the government's Housing Infrastructure Fund for a total of 170 million to improve road access and convert an existing freight railway into a passenger branch line.
That's an awful lot of money, but can you tell me why the details of that HIF bid are not available to us?
I can't tell you. It's not for you to know. The new infrastructure will open up the Hoo Peninsula for new housing development with a focus on the two existing villages of High Houstow and Hoo St Werburgh.
The village of High Houstow will double in size, and the village of Hoo St Werburgh will become a town. It will become a very different place. What are the social implications? Are there possibly more social problems?
Well, the developers will organise Meet the Neighbours parties. The construction of 12,000 new homes within the next 17 years will enable the population of the Hoo Peninsula to be increased by 30,000 people.
The population of this area is currently 14,700 people. An extra 30,000 people will more than treble the size of the existing population. What are the additional facilities that are going to be available?
Well, of course, all the necessary facilities will be provided for the additional population, including retail, education, medical, sports and recreation, and a few extra counsellors too.
And extra doctors, no doubt. How many jobs are going to be provided for these 12,500 new households?
Well, the Housing Infrastructure Fund includes money to mitigate the impact on the environment. The council has already advertised for a manager for the Strategic Environmental Management Scheme.
The Hoo Peninsula is an intrinsic part of a globally important habitat for migratory birds and other birds that rely on the unique combination of foreshore, marshes and farmland designated under international convention as a special protection area. How is it likely to be protected?
I'm sure that the new residents will enjoy seeing the birds when they are out walking their dogs.
Thank you, Medway Council Officer, Planning Officer. So now I'm out of role play. Just to say, I'm the parish councillor in High Houstow. Am I informed? The more I learn, the less I think so. I'm also on the Neighbourhood Plan Committee. these sort of frustrating exchanges with Medway Council have made me, and I suspect others, more determined to contribute to working towards a better possible outcome for the Hoo Peninsula and High Housetow residents. There is good news. We have access to levels of legal advice and environmental advice, including now some support from the PB, thank you, that are something I think of a game changer. We have a tough fight ahead of us, but in the words of High Housetow Parish, the chair of the High Housetow Parish Council, it's not a done deal, not yet a done deal for Medway Council. So this next slide that you see in front of you, entitled Medway Local Plan, is just for you to read and digest. It's probably very familiar to many, but we'll give a few moments for those who it may not be so familiar to. So moving on, I think, and hope everyone's had the chance to look at that, to the next slide. We're now coming up to looking at some of the reasons why we object to Medway Council's plans. So Medway Council minutes on the 5th of February 2019. Those minutes appear to state clearly that there shouldn't be any further houses built until the infrastructure was in place. Confusingly, we were then told that just under 1,000 had already been agreed, so we're going ahead, and that 1,000 more were likely to follow. We haven't had a satisfactory explanation for this apparent inconsistency. The National Planning Framework and the Unsustainable Development Goals, you'll recall that Sonia and Mary have already mentioned the Sustainable Development Goals, but both the National Planning Framework and the Sustainable Development Goals highlight the importance of sustainability, climate change action, and the natural environment. Medway Council seem unaware of both of these. As you hopefully noticed on the graph with the blue line, but I'll say again that there's a downward trajectory in regard to the population growth in Medway. There's no significant population growth in Medway, but the local council are not challenging central government's figures on housing need. The housing developments that they propose will not meet local need for affordable housing, but it will provide homes for commuters, most of whom would likely prefer to be able to afford a home nearer to their workplace. The Grade 1 agricultural land. Post-Brexit and post the pandemic, this is not helpful to our food security, and it ignores the role that this land can play in sequestering and supporting carbon from the atmosphere. The Localism Act. The neighbourhood plan committees are a real opportunity for local people to shape the development of their communities. Medway Council seem unaware of the spirit of this legislation. Their avoidance of answering legitimate questions about the HIF bid and their environmental impact is not genuine engagement with parish councils. I feel that their desire to meet with us, and they have met with us, is more about them trying to find information from us so that they can meet their agenda. There's people in neighbourhood plan committees who have a great deal of local knowledge, and Medway Council want to benefit from that knowledge to find a way through any difficulties they may have with environmental assessment, I feel. The last three objections here, I'll hand over to Bernard, and he'll comment on those. Thanks, Bernard. Thanks.
Thank you. Sufficient brownfield sites are available to meet local need. The key to this point being to meet local need. Medway Council have a database recording these sites on their website, and anyone can go on their website and view them. There are, of course, many more that are not indicated on their website, but as you visit places in town, in Chatham, in Gillingham and Rainham and so on, you will see that there are many places where potential development could take place. Much of our existing housing stock is out of date, in poor repair and expensive to heat and maintain. There needs to be a focus on tackling substandard housing and efforts made to upgrade the existing house stock in line with our climate change targets. The Hoo Peninsula is part of a globally important habitat for migratory birds and rare plant species and contains special protection areas. The North Kent marshes and the Medway estuary are designated as special protection areas and have legal protection under the Conservation of Habitats and Species Amendment EU Exit Regulations 2019. If implemented, the Medway new local plan is the first example of where these legally binding protections would be flouted. And I would refer you to the discussion in the House of Lords, where Lord Gardner of Kimball made this absolutely clear. And he said that never has any development been approved that would allow these special protection areas to be under threat. So I'll now hand you over to Sonia to tell us what we have done so far.
That'll be me, Bernard.
Oh, that'll be Marilyn then. Okay, sorry, Marilyn.
That's fine, no problem at all. We have started this, and this is Medway Green Party I'm speaking about here now. We've started a letter writing campaign, and we started that by contacting our membership, providing them with briefing documents about the issues, and I know that there has been a response from our membership. We've also raised awareness via our social media platforms. We've had meetings, and I guess we're trying to raise awareness at this very moment. We've also researched and informed ourselves. I feel that my being on the parish council and the Medway Green Party networking with other campaign groups across the area is part of that, part of the process of sharing experience and expertise, and that's really important. The Association of Green Councillors. I'm now a member, and I hope to start networking with other Green Party councillors who have hopefully, and I'm sure, have had similar experiences and will be able to support and inform me further. I have been told that if an independent councillor, that's parish councillor or indeed a ward councillor, joins the Green Party, they can also become a member of the Association of Green Councillors and remain as an independent. So some people might like to consider that. I'd just like to add a bit of a personal perspective here. We do have a tough fight ahead of us. In my opinion, our so-called planning system is far too helpful to volume house builders, whose motivation is to build where they can make most profit and not where houses are needed. I mean, why wouldn't they do that? But I'd again like to reiterate that it's not a done deal for Medway. The local plans of some authorities have been rejected as unsustainable by the examiner. The authority will need to carry out environmental assessments. We have legal advice available to us, and they've been told by officers or an officer of the RSPB that they will offer their support and expertise. And with that behind us, I think we can be vigilant and dogged about monitoring the environmental assessments. Even if we can't stop all the development, we do, through the neighbourhood plan process, have the opportunity to have some influence over how new developments go forward. In High Housestow, we are beginning to put forward a draft neighbourhood plan that will, via a referendum, go back to our residents for final acceptance. There is, I think, an opportunity to come up with something really quite special. So reasons to be cheerful. I think now we're going on to the discussion. Am I right, colleagues?
Yep, spot on. That's fantastic. Thank you, Marilyn.
So we've had a really great time this evening with lots of different information, lots of different things we're working on and how you guys can get involved. We now have 20 minutes for discussions and questions. This is how we're going to do this. Kat is going to work the screen. If you have questions or have had questions written in chat, she will read in the chat box, she will read them aloud. If you would like to ask us anything, raise your hand and Kat will click on you and you can ask the question. If it's directly at any member of the panel who'd particularly ask about something, please say so. If not, then members of the panel will raise their hands and Kat will click on those and they can respond that way. Over to you guys.
So if anyone has a question, please just raise your hand or type it in the chat box or a comment. George, can you unmute yourself, George?
Comment really. I was just going to
Comments are good.
the quote from me that it's not a done deal. I think, in fact, Marilyn has said that to me this afternoon, and I wasn't sure what she was referring to, but now I know, obviously. I think for a long time we've been fighting. In fact, we've been fighting the local plan since it went out of print in 2003, and I think this is the third issue of local plans that they tried to put through. Medway, by its own volition, realised that building on the Hoo Peninsula is not a done deal because they know that it's, and have said that it is unsustainable in its present form. And the idea of the HIS bid is exactly what they say, and exactly what they say in their marketing for it. It's to unlock the potential of the Hoo Peninsula. Without the HIS bid, it is unsustainable out here, and that's really just me explaining that it isn't a done deal, because until that HIS bid is in place and through and the money's spent and all of the conditions are met, it is definitely not a done deal. That's it, thanks.
Okay.
Sorry, Jenny's got a question, sorry.
Okay, yep.
Yes, just unmuting myself. This is really interesting, thank you. I've been a member of the Green Party locally for a few years and just not very active, so might be persuaded to get a little bit more active. So be great. So I live in Upnor and we're currently fighting a planning application for 75 new homes on some beautiful agricultural land that's kind of full of wildlife as well. And I know you're focusing on the Hoo Peninsula, but will the campaign also be looking at sort of Upnor and Chattendene areas as well? Because obviously that would be hugely impacted as they're on the sort of periphery of the way kind of out to the Hoo Peninsula. So just really some clarification on what the focus is, or is it particularly on Hoo and High Housestow?
With Medway Council at the end of the day, and for talking about issues relating to the environment, those issues actually apply to other parts of Medway as well. Climate change isn't just about the Hoo Peninsula, it is about the Hoo Peninsula and wider Medway, and wider than Medway. It's to do with the world essentially. And so everything that we do in terms of planning for the local plan and things that we put forward is going to have an impact on the rest of Medway as well. But it could be.
Yeah, I suppose I was thinking that because Upnor is just on the top of, like, the bottom of 4 Elms Hill, isn't it? And so anything that's to do with the Hoo Peninsula affects.
Well, you might. Yeah,
I think Marilyn's got something to add. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, geographically, you might be quite close to whole area, and so you know we would have to make decisions about whether that could be encompassed as well along the way. And if you were involved, then you could be influence that.
If I can say, Jenny, you've kind of set yourself up.
Yeah, a little bit.
Because I've found out a lot about parish councils, local government in the last year, and I've been able to feed that back to the Green Party. Our focus has been about the Hoo Peninsula, but you're quite right. Geographically, Upnor are part of the peninsula, and I certainly know that. I mean, the Hoo campaign isn't just a Medway Green Party campaign, it's much bigger than that. And I know that our ward councillor, one of our ward councillors, Ron Sands, is really keen to get all of the parish councils and the local areas started to work together. You know, everyone knows their strength in numbers. So you can be our lead in Upnor, Jenny, and you're very welcome.
George.
Thank you.
Yeah, I understand. If you give us your details or put them in the chat, we can make sure that we keep in touch with you, invite you to our next meeting, and we can actually thrash this out then.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep, George has got a question.
Just one of the other important things that that we're keen on, and I think Medway is keen on too, is to keep the villages autonomous. And we've been having a particular battle between us and Hoo around where they're going to put the railway station. And in that discussion that we've had with the head of planning at Medway Council, the Holt Marsh Valley, as I think I've said to you before, Jenny, is their plan for the distance between the urban sprawl and the peninsula. So I don't think it's in Medway's kind of it's in master plan to build in the Holt Marsh Valley. So I think you should take solace from that, and also to pick up on it and to say that, you know, Upnor forms the barrier between the urban fringe and the peninsula, and we very much see Upnor as the front line of the peninsula.
Yeah, good. Well, we've got a lot of very active people now that are fighting for the environment in Upnor. So as the recent Green campaign shown, so support there, I think. Okay, thanks, guys.
Any other questions or comments? Jonathan, don't forget to.
I'm trying to unmute. Hello.
That's it.
I think that was a very interesting exchange, because what it reveals is that the same issues are arising in a number of the rural parishes and locations throughout Medway, and they arise, I think, from the fundamental problems with the approach that Medway Council are taking, which is that they are allowing, because they've failed to produce their own local plan, that allows individual developers on an opportunist basis to select sites that suit them. And because the council, Medway, is unable to demonstrate a 5-year housing land supply, the policies, the national policies that apply, mean that there's a strong presumption in favour of housing development. And so the big stick that they wield is to say, go along with the plan that we've got, because at least it has some kind of rational basis. Otherwise, you'll just have these opportunist applications coming forward. We're facing, in High Halstow, we're facing the worst of both of those things, because we've got opportunist applications and we've been identified as a location for massive development. But the principles, the errors that they're making are the same in Upnor, in Hoo, St Werburgh, and in High Halstow. And they're concerned with putting development in locations which are not well served by public transport or by facilities and services and jobs, which mean that inevitably people will need to get into their cars, and that causes all of the problems that we're aware of. And it's, of course, responsible for climate change or contributing to climate change and the destruction of the environment. So your struggle down there in Upner, Jenny, is exactly the same as the struggle that we're fighting in High Halstow, and if we can help you, let us know.
Lovely, thank you.
Could I just add to what Jonathan has said? It would be good for Hoo, High Halstow, and in fact, indeed, all of the parishes on the peninsula to act together. I think you have a particular problem at Upner in as much as that you've got a member of the council that is a developer.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But luckily the parish council unanimously said no tonight, this afternoon, so they haven't recommended it, so that's the first step. But yeah, but yes, the chairman of the parish council does actually work for them or is a consultant for Esquire development.
It makes it very difficult for us to engage in conversation with the parish council because of that. So
yeah, no,
that is the reason that we haven't spoken.
Yeah, it's Grimsby Extra Parish Council, and they the Parish Council magazine, they had a full page advert for Esquire developments in the Parish Council magazine as well. I mean, how ridiculous is that? Yeah. Yeah. What can, anyway.
It's a tough fight, but one worth undertaking.
Perhaps you need a Green candidate to be standing.
But I think we can say that if Jenny gives us her details and joins the next meeting, we can certainly thrash out how we can help there. Do we have any other questions or comments or anything in the chat?
Could I just, sorry, I know you're in a limelight here, but I was quite interested in your letter writing campaign and whether you're just doing that through the Green Party or whether we can latch onto that peninsula-wide and in fact Medway-wide.
I mean, I can't see why we can't talk about that and link together. For me, tonight's almost all about people coming together and working together. And I would just like to add, I would love to have somebody else on the Association of Green Councillors.
I know you're talking about it.
Well, I've got quite a few possibilities, so yeah, I'll be speaking to you all later.
The other thing, of course, is we perhaps need to link in with the social media as well, because we seem to be talking in one voice here, don't we?
Good.
No, we can definitely do that on the social media front.
Kate's very good at that. Some of us less so.
Okay, any more questions or comments?
Don't see any hands raised and nothing in the chat. Oh, one, yeah, Linda.
Thank you for inviting us. I found it really interesting. I'm really proud of what Marilyn's doing, you know, all for what she does. We're really grateful. And she's done a lot for High Halstow. And I'm pleased that you invited us. It's been enlightening. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you for coming. Any further comments before we move on? Okay, David, are you happy to?
Okay. Can I make a comment? Up until now, everybody's become quite familiar talking about the peninsula as being the area to the east of Upner and Cliff and so on. But potentially under the new system, it becomes obvious that the whole of the peninsula, the physical geographical peninsula, is, you know, the part we now call the peninsula is 2/3 of actually the geographical area, even though it's got slightly less than half the population. But I think it's to do with all coming together. And you know, I think the people on the peninsula and those of us who really love the peninsula quite fanatically want everybody to come together, and you know, we are prepared to fight and do whatever we can. So, you know, welcome, and please join, and feel free to to have your say and help us and help each other to do what's going to be the right thing to do.
So, right, the theme of the evening seems to be about all coming together. You can certainly decide to do that by joining the Green Party. If you can't quite make that leap, you can actually become a supporter and go on our supporters list. There should be an email address at the bottom here. Oh, that's the one. Yeah, that's where you can contact us. So yeah, please consider joining the party, and if not actually joining us, then you can go on our supporter mailing list, where you will actually get the same information as our party members. We would love everybody to contribute to our letter writing campaign, and George has suggested perhaps we can do a bit of joint working on that. I've got some ideas to share with you, George, on that score. If you do feel inspired to write a letter, we can send you some sort of a briefing document just to help, and to tell you what you might like to write and who to write to. We would love you to share any expertise that you have got with us. You might like to give a talk for a future meeting. It's not all about the Hoo Peninsula. Fundraising. This is a massive issue for us, as Mary's already indicated, and it's frankly a must if we're going to be successful in the 2023 elections. That's how we fundraise, and of course you can actually just simply donate. If you want to do that, am I right, Kate? People can go on the website to make a donation into our crowd fund. Need some help from you there, Kate? Yeah.
You can do it through the website. Click on the donate button. If you want to specify that the money is for the Protect Who campaign, you can add a note that with the hashtag Protect Who, and that should then be received by Mary. If you're happy for it to go to Green Party and to us being able to campaign, no need to leave a note, but thank you in advance if you do.
Okay, and just to add there that we really would like to give some financial support to the parish councils. So if we get some donations, that's going to be helpful. It would be wonderful if people can offer us admin and meeting coordination skills. I think it's been said before, we are all volunteers with busy lives, families, young children, some of us, and we have other responsibilities, so sharing the load would massively help, and as does contributing on social media. And one last thought, research for the party. Not everybody's somebody who wants to attend meetings, but if you feel you're good on the computer and can find out information, that is also something that we would very much welcome. So you may have your own ideas about how you can contribute, so please do get in touch and let us know. So I think we're done, unless there's any further comments.
I think Linda wants to say something before we go to talk about, no, you didn't, sorry. To David Jones, just to talk about the future meetings.
Yes, this is interesting. Thank you very much for inviting me to come here. I've been involved with the Sustainable Development Goals since way back in 2012. The United Nations in Rio, it's called the Rio 20 Summit in Brazil. In 2012, they committed global nations, governments, to create a set of these Sustainable Development Goals. And they would be integrated into the follow-up to the Millennium Development Goals. That was the 2000 millennium. And that would take us up to the 2015 deadline. Well, we passed that. Medway Council really must act responsibly and not breach our UK's commitments. It really does. Although we're talking in terms of these are global commitments, Hoo Peninsula is part of it. It's all part of it. We've been talking about joining up everything. You know, Hoo Peninsula is that a small part, but it's a significant part. You know, it's the lungs of this and that, and everything interacts with everything else around the globe. The UK is committed to deliver those sustainable development goals. The most effective way to do this is by ensuring that the goals are fully embedded in planned activity of each government department. The most effective mechanism for coordinating implementation is the departmental planning process that cascades to the local level, such as the part played by Hoo Peninsula. Everything fits. The UK was at the forefront of negotiating the Sustainable Development Goals and will be at the forefront of delivering them. The UK lobbied hard to make sure the Sustainable Development Goals support the continuation of work undertaken through the Millennium Development Goals. Medway Council simply must ensure its activities support those goals. Medway Council, in its proposals for Hoo Peninsula, makes no reference to how it intends to coordinate implementation of these goals, which is a serious omission. Without a detailed study as to how Medway Council intends to comply in every way with these goals, and supported by a robust and competent impact assessment, the three pillars of sustainable development are breached, which renders it impossible to understand the full extent of social, economic and environmental damage that will result from the Hoo Peninsula proposals. Official definition of what is sustainable development, it comes from 1987 report from the United Nations World Commission. And let me just quote that. It says, development that meets the needs of the present while safeguarding Earth's life support system on which the welfare of current and future generation depend. Now, you know, we're custodians of our kids' future. We've got to act responsibly. This is a very important point. Hoo Peninsula is an important part of the whole system, as I said. The Climate Change Act of 2008 made the UK the first country in the world to have a legally binding long-term framework to cut carbon emission. It set out the government's commitment to reduce the UK's carbon emission to net zero by the year 2050. 2050 is not very long to go. Medway Council are bound to apply the national, we've heard about it, the National Planning Policy Framework and the Hoo Peninsula proposal. The Council needs to undertake a robust impact assessment measured against the requirements as set out in the National Planning Policy Framework with regard to fragile environments and rural habitats. You know, we've heard all about these very fragile environments that will be affected by whatever. So let's, you know, really it needs proper assessments, proper impact assessments, bring a whole lot together. And these 17 sustainable development goals should be addressed, each and every one, in some way with whatever goes forward. Thank you. And now I'm going to hand over to Bernard Hyde, who is going to talk about an alternative development plan. You know, let's start the conversation now. Thanks, Bernard. Over to you.
Thank you, David. Local plan will not expect people to live in a yurt or build with rammed earth. It will, however, be based on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and follow the National Planning Policy Framework. The way we live is constantly evolving, and we need to appreciate what has been good in the past while trying to improve how we live in the future. We have lessons to learn from the current pandemic, not least the selfless dedication, fortitude, courage, and inventiveness that we see all around us. We can use our inventiveness to be more adaptable and flexible, and consequently to make more with less. Using less will help us tackle climate change, which is largely driven by consumerism and the throwaway society. We have the technology to live well without destroying the only planet that we have to live on, and we need to do it together. The Medway Green Party local plan will aim to be inclusive, and we would like formulating the local plan to be inclusive as well. We therefore invite all our members and supporters to become involved and share their thoughts and ideas. And of course, if you want to pitch your yurt in Medway, please feel free. Thank you. I'll pass you back to Kat.
Just leaves me to close the meeting. Thank you to all of you for joining us, and thank you to everyone that presented and put in a lot of time researching all the facts, and hopefully this is the start of some collaborative working, and that we will see you all again soon. So once again, thank you very much for joining us and helping to make Medway and the world a fairer, a fairer, kinder and more sustainable planet. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Kat.
Okay, bye-bye.